Hey, what's up guys? Nick Pell coming to you once again with another book review. And this week's book that I am reviewing for you is the beginning of the series, and it is The Walking Dead Book 1. I am reading it in the hardcover book forms like this. You can find them on Amazon, wherever. But yeah, this is where I'm reading them out of. The story itself has two main chapters. It's kind of just split half and half. And they deal with two kind of separate storylines that build into the overall storyline. Let's begin with characters, and the first character that you really see is Rick Grimes, and he is the story's central character and its main character. If you watch the TV show, you know this as well, but there are some differences between the TV show and the comic book. I'll just say that right now, and I'll talk about that later in the enjoyment. But yeah, Rick is the leader. He was a sheriff before the zombie apocalypse. He starts out in a coma in this series, as he does in the show, and he has no idea what's going on. He slept through the whole beginning process of the whole zombie apocalypse, so he kind of gets plunged right into the middle of it, and that's where he starts out. We also have his wife Lori, and you see her fairly quickly into this book, or into this comic. She is in something of a peculiar position. Again, if you've seen the show, you know what this is, revolving Shane and Rick, and then stuff that occurs afterwards for that. And they also have a son, Carl. I'm not going to go really into him at this point because he's not really a huge major character at this point. He's kind of just a side character. He's got a few lines here or there, but he's not really central to the overall plot. And we also have Shane as our main character. Shane is introduced in episode 1, and he starts out as kind of the leader of this group, or he was the leader before Rick showed up. Yeah, it's hard to go into these characters without really revealing it too much, but he was Rick's best friend. He was his fellow officer on the police force, and he took care of Lori and Carl while Rick was in the hospital in his coma. We also have Dale, and Dale is this old guy who is kind of, in the show, is kind of the pursuer of peace of the group. In this, he's kind of wise in some way. He's not as wise as the show kind of makes him out to be. He's portrayed very differently than in the show, which kind of surprised me, but it'll make the read a little more interesting. We also have Herschel, and he was mainly in season 2 of The Walking Dead, and he is in episode 2 of this comic. And he is the owner of a farm that Rick and the gang kind of stumble upon after Carl is injured in a way. He just kind of helps them out for a little bit, and you get to see the events that go along with him. And lastly, we have a character that is not in the show, who is actually something of a main character in this story, and that is Tyrese. And he is this man who Rick and the gang kind of stumble upon Rick and the gang in episode 2, the very beginning of it, and they kind of just start joining up with the gang. And he's not in any of the TV show episodes. Maybe he'll be in season 3, I don't know. But yeah, him and his daughter and his daughter's boyfriend are in the story, and I feel like that they will become more of a central character in future story arcs. Those are the main characters that I thought were kind of the main people to look at in this first book. So keep that in mind. There are many other characters, some that you've seen in the show, some that you haven't, and yeah, those aren't all the characters. They're all important, but these are the main ones that I thought were essential. So we move on to the plot. Like I said, it's split into 2 different episodes, or 2 different chapters, I guess. It starts out just like the first chapter is basically what season 1 of The Walking Dead was, with a few parts added here and there, and some parts taken out. I'm noticing the show took many liberties in terms of the plot, so if you've been up to date with the show like I have, and you're just starting the books like I am, then you will notice instant differences. Things move along at a much quicker pace, and you'll get to see that. The show takes many liberties with the plot. But episode 2 deals with Herschel's farm for the most part, just like it did in season 2. That's the plot in a nutshell. I'm assuming if you're watching this, you've you know something of the show or you've watched the show. So if you want to know anything about the plot, leave it in the comments. Do not spoil anything from the next few books for people, because you'll be spoiling possible future events in the show and future events in the books. So if you do, I will delete them. So please don't do it. And we move on to themes. And there are a few themes in this series that I've noticed just out of this first book. That's all I'm going off of for this. And that is survival. And this is a key in any zombie apocalypse, as anyone would probably be able to guess. Just staying alive, looking for food, working together, that type of stuff in almost all these characters. You also see death, obviously, and how that impacts different individuals. You see a character who is not in the show, but he's in the book, and he loses someone dear to him, and you just see how that affects him mentally. And then you see someone lose someone else of importance, and you see how they deal with that. And death is just a huge circle that encompasses the series as a whole. Then I would say the last theme would probably be life itself, actually. Just because when you're surrounded by death like this, if like the zombie apocalypse was to happen tomorrow or something, you would see just like everyone die around you, and you would probably feel a little bit weak and hopeless for a little bit, but you would begin to cherish life a little bit more. At least that's what I would think. And that is something that some of these characters do come to do by the end of this first book. They begin to cherish life a little bit more and see kind of a reason for living despite all the horrors that surround them. And we move on to enjoyment, and I did really enjoy this first book in the series. I did predict a little bit of what was happening because, like I said, I've seen the show. There are major differences. Things don't always go as the way that the show showed them. The very first parts of Rick's journey, where he's leaving the hospital, finding the dad and his son, and then going to Atlanta and getting saved by Glenn, that stuff is pretty accurately done by the show. After that point, they kind of diverge a little bit. There are different characters from the book to the show, and you just see different events play out. They all lead to ultimately the same conclusion, but just the way that it's done is very different. And in that sense, I did enjoy the story, and I think it'll make me enjoy the show more, just because I'm seeing two different possibilities of what could happen with these characters in this world. I see the book version, which was the original that Kirkman wrote. I did not say his last name. That Kirkman wrote, and then I also see the show and the way that the directors are deciding to do that. It's kind of similar with Game of Thrones. That show is up on TV. It follows the books fairly accurately, but it does take its own liberties with some parts. It's not completely accurate to the script that the book has set out, but ultimately arrives at the same conclusion. And I really didn't mind it that much. I enjoyed the book for what it was. I read it in about maybe 3 hours, if that, because it does take some time to get through, but it's not too hassling of a read at all. But yeah, that's about it. I would definitely recommend it if you have watched the show, so you can kind of see a little bit of what's going to happen. Book 2 deals with the prison and basically season 3 of The Walking Dead. And so I am going to be starting that, and you guys will see the review for that next week. Again, I am sorry that I will not be reading Lord of the Rings, but that's just how it worked out, as unfortunate as it is. So yeah, next 7 book reviews will be this series, so be prepared for that. And then I'll probably get back to either books that I've read in college or the classics. Yeah, that's about it as far as I can tell. Like, favorite, comment, and subscribe if you so choose. I would love it oh so much, and you would be awesome in my eyes, which is always something to want, right? No. As usual, my name is Nick Pell, and as always, keep on reading.